What is up, AR students, parents, and students, if you're watching as well? Welcome to our parent meeting of sorts. My name's Lee. If we haven't met before, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself here in a minute, but I just want to welcome you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for jumping online, watching me talk about the future, a couple of the things that we're excited about with AR students. And if you're watching after the fact, if today is not April 30th, thank you for tuning in. All of this is available on YouTube. Parents, if you want to go back and watch it, you'll be able to. If one parent sees it, the other one hasn't, that sort of thing. We're just going to try and cover all of our bases. As we talk, at the end, I'm going to have time for questions, like live questions, if you can believe that. But if you have any questions along the way, my two friends, Jen and James, are in the back here collecting questions. So if you have any questions, if you think of anything, just go ahead and ask them right away, and they'll make sure I see them at the end. So with that, let's get into our parent meeting. We had originally planned on doing two parent meetings, one for just the rising sixth grade parents. If you're a rising sixth grade parent, welcome to the big time. And then one for all the other parents that already have middle school and high school students, but now we're kind of doing it all together. And we also had a parent panel thing planned, but more on that at the end. So I will say on the top here, some of this you might know already. Some of this might be stuff you've already heard, whether it's from me, from somewhere else at Asher Ridge. But we're going to try and cover as much as we can in one video, get it all together in one place. So if you've heard any of this before, I apologize ahead of time, but I'm just trying to cover everything all at once. So if we haven't met before, again, my name is Lee Ayers. I'm the students director here at Asher Ridge Church. I love hanging out with middle school and high school students. It's such an important and wonderful and weird and awkward and uncomfortable and awesome time for your kids to be in. And it's been really fun the past couple years getting to know the Asher Ridge Church family. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I worked at North Point Community Church, the part of the network that we are members of. And my heart for ministry comes from my own experience as a student. One of the things that I absolutely love about my story, about what God's done in my life, is God showed me two things from the very beginning that I needed. And a lot of students have those big camp moments where they look up at the sky or at the ceiling and there's the one light on them and they have this incredible moment of salvation, and that wasn't my story. Mine was kind of a slow burn. It took me a long time to come around and finally meet God, finally give everything I have to God, and that's kind of my story. And I think it's important to know that, to know where we go with AR students. So the reason I tell you that is just so you get to know me a little bit, but also know where I'm coming from with a lot of this. So the things that were super important for me in terms of getting to know God when I was a student. I was actually in middle school. I had a friend. His name is Michael. Shout out. You're not watching, but I wish you were. Love you, dude. He kept inviting me to his youth group. It was on Wednesday nights then. And eventually, I finally warmed up to it, finally went. And it was really cool because almost immediately I was accepted into this community of people that both loved God and cared about me. And it was pretty remarkable how a lot of my friends were the people that were there. My community came from that place at Peachtree Corners Baptist Church. But the piece of it that is super important, the piece that I think a lot of students miss out on, is caring adults. Community is something that's built into a lot of what we do. There's baseball teams and orchestra and band and chorus and musical theater casts and dance classes and all of these activities, all of these ways for students to engage in some form of community. We're going to do that. We're going to do community as well as we can, but we're also going to put caring adults right in the middle of your students' lives. And I think that's so important. For me, it was the fact that there were adults that knew my name, that knew what neighborhood I lived in, knew a lot about me, that didn't have to. There's a lot of adults in your students' life that have to know them. Their teachers, their coaches, other friends' parents, that sort of thing. All of those people have to know your students. But it was, for me, what changed me was that there were adults that didn't have to. They weren't required. They weren't being paid to get to know me. And that was the really cool part. As a seventh grader, I still remember the conscious thought of, wow, these adults, these people don't have to do this, but they are. And that was so compelling for me. So that's a big part of what we do is we try and combine aspects of community with aspects of caring adults. And I guess I want to tell you a little bit about why arStudents even matters. As you know, our world is kind of crazy, coronavirus aside, and middle school and high school students are experiencing levels of harm and isolation and aloneness unlike anyone ever before. Almost every year there's a new study that comes out that says students are having a worse go of it. And we want to get ahead of that. But like all of the different factors in our world combine to create this atmosphere. The first one's social media. We're going to talk a lot about social media at arStudents. I think it's really important that our students have a handle of what social media actually can be good for and what it's not good for. The second thing is performance culture. Your students from the time they hit middle school are expected to perform well. Everything is leading up to that big college application. And whether it's for college or for something else, there's always this status, this performance that they go through. And that kind of goes with competition. There's no non-cut anything these days. Like you have to make the team, you have to make the cast, you have to make first chair, you have to make the squad. And all of these things combined with the fact that we're understanding a lot about mental health in young people, and especially the student age range between 11 and 12 and 18. All of these kind of combine to create a really rough situation for a lot of students. And then, right on top of that, the typical teenage misunderstoodness, right? That like my parents don't get me, that we all kind of felt. All of these things kind of combine to create a perfect storm of heartache and pain for a lot of students. And I think it's really important that, one, we understand these factors, and there's more. This is only 5. This is only 5. There's certainly a lot more. But just these are kind of the things that we're taking note of here on the front end. These are the things that your students are going to go through. These are things that your students are going to be surrounded by, whether it's them themselves going through it or their best friends. We want to get ahead of that. So at arStudents, we fall into this awesome tagline. We've been doing this exact thing for a little over a year now. And it's this. arStudents' goal is for students to be known and to know God. And it's simple. Everything we do falls into one or both of these categories. Is what we're doing for arStudents on a Sunday, is an event, is the way our students are being challenged in small group. Are they leading them closer to being known by their peers and by a caring adult? And are we leading them closer to knowing God? Because we want to jump in right where AR Kids leaves off. We want to jump right in and say, there's a great big God that wants to know you, that wants to love you. And you can love him back. You can know God too. And that's remarkable. So this is kind of the tagline that we have going on. And the first part, to be known, all about community. We talked about that a little bit. arStudents is built on small groups. It's built on a lot of the interactions that our students have with each other and with their leaders in a small group form. arStudents might change on a weekly basis. We might add a different game. We might do music differently. We might do teaching differently. Small groups will never go anywhere. Small groups are the most important thing that we do. We stand by them. They're not going anywhere. And that's been the real challenge in these days, is to make sure that small group community happens. If you're doing our online hangouts, keep doing it. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't, jump in. I promise. And then the second part, to know God. Students, like I said, students need to know there's a God out there that loves them. That Jesus went to the cross, bore their sins, and came out the other side, and is sitting at the right hand of God, and we can do that too. And that's what students need to know. And so through relationships and community, through small groups, through some good teaching, hopefully along the way, students will come face to face with a God that truly loves them and wants what's best for them. But there's a challenge. There's a tricky part that goes with this, and it's this ugly word right here. It's time. Time is of the essence with your students. I'm sure you already feel that. One of the things that we tell our small group leaders every single time we train them, whether it's their first training, they've been with us for years, we tell them that your Sundays with these students are limited. There's going to be a point when you can no longer speak into their lives. They will be moving on. They'll move out of town. They'll do something else. Time is limited. And we also understand that your time with your students is limited. But you have so much more of that than we do. We could never possibly replace the amount of time a parent has with their student. And we understand that. And we think that that's an important aspect of the arStudents mantra, vision, mission, is that we acknowledge the fact that a parent has so much more time on their hands. One of the things that we talk about a lot at arStudents is relationships. And we can do as much as we possibly can to prepare your middle schooler or your high schooler for their first breakup. Chances are we won't be there. Chances are you're going to be the one sitting at the foot of the bed when things are going crazy. So we understand that while we're going to try really hard to surround your students with caring adults, with community, we also understand that we don't have nearly as much time with them as you do. And we really appreciate the fact that you even let us have an hour and a half a week. But we also want to do whatever we can to help the rest of the hours of the week go well for you. Students' brains start to change. In terms of neurology, there's all of this brain development research out there when it comes to students. I'm not going to get really into it, but we know right when adolescence starts, between 11 and 13, depending on the student, there's a switch that gets flipped in a student's brain that instead of looking inside the home, they look outside the home for guidance, for authority, for influence. And we want to be there already prepared for when they look outside of the home. And it's not indictment against anything that a parent does. It's just the way we've seen it happen. We want to be that guidance. We want to be there for a student when they start to look outside of the home for their guidance. And we want to reinforce what you've been teaching them all along the way. So that's kind of the big picture stuff. I do want to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty. Before we get into what we have planned for this upcoming year, I do want to say that arStudents does follow the same safe sanctuaries practices the rest of Asher Ridge Church does. We really believe that we need to protect our students, protect our adult leaders as much as we can. We do not let students and leaders hang out one-on-one in private situations. We want those one-on-one conversations to happen, but we want them to happen in public where people have eyes on them so that nothing is at risk. There's always plenty of transparency, plenty of eyes and ears on whatever's going on, and we're going to try as hard as we can to push a student back to their parents. We might be the first ones that hear some crazy news about a student's life, and the first question we're going to ask them is, when are you going to tell your parents? How are you going to tell your parents? When is that conversation going to happen? We're always going to try and push everything back to y'all because y'all have so much more influence over your student than we do. We only see them an hour and a half a week. You see them however many hours there are left in a week. I didn't do the math, probably should have. But yeah, we want to make sure that our students feel comfortable talking to us, but also comfortable talking to their parents. So that was a lot. That was kind of the mission overview kind of stuff. Now for some really cool, exciting news. Drum roll, please. This is what we have going on. This fall, arStudents is relocating to Asher Ridge High School's Culinary wing. Ham horns, confetti, balloons. It's so exciting. We cannot be more excited about this change. If you have had students come to arStudents so far, or if you haven't, and you've just driven past the church office on a Sunday afternoon, it is packed in here. Y'all, when the middle schoolers are here, we are packed shoulder to shoulder in this church office. And it's been really fun, but it's also created a lot of challenges in terms of getting our small groups separated enough so that there's some confidentiality between the boys group and the girls groups. Also, when one group finishes before the other, then they're making noise in the lobby and it's distracting. All that to say, we knew we needed to find a new location. We knew we needed to come up with a solution, at least to get us between the right now and the time that we're moving into a permanent building. And so, Asher Ridge High School's Culinary Wing is that solution. If you've never been on that side of the high school, if you drive into the front entrance or the front office entrance that you normally pull into for church, and you take the road kind of towards the right, between the front office and the farmland is a wing of the building, and that's where the culinary classroom and the full-size industrial kitchen is, which is really cool. And there's a bunch of classrooms on that wing of the building. And so we're going to use that space for arStudents. The culinary classroom is big enough for us to transform into our large group space. The other classrooms down that hall are going to be great for small groups. And then there's this outdoor courtyard area for hangs before and after AR students. So that's what we're super, super excited about. And we don't plan on changing radically what a Sunday looks like. We're just going to relocate it, right? It's still going to be about 30 to 45 minutes of a program in terms of large group, and that's, games and teaching and music and all the fun stuff. And then at least 15 minutes for small group, and then the remaining time for dinner. And so we might rearrange the order here and there so that we can kind of match up with the middle schoolers leaving, the high schoolers arriving, that sort of thing. But we're going to try as best we can to keep things normal, just in a new place, which I'm really excited about because that means we have room to spread out. We can do some different things outside that we just can't do in a gravel parking lot right off of Bacon's Bridge. So I'm really excited. Like I said, that will start in the fall. And we'll talk a little bit about when the fall starts in a second. But before we get to the fall, we have to do the summer. And so this summer, we're going to shift a little bit about how we do things at the end of the summer. Normally, we try and meet, and as normal arStudents weekly gatherings go, as normal as we would want them to be. Right now, they're not normal, obviously. We would meet all through the summer. This year, we're going to slow down a little bit in July, give our leaders a chance to breathe and a chance for us to train them up a little bit better, and the opportunity for us to host some events for different groups within arStudents to get everyone excited about the fall. And so we'll have events for both the Rising Sixth Boys and the Rising Sixth Girls. We'll do one big event with all middle school students, and then we'll do one big event with all high school students. So all of these things will happen in July, hopefully. We're going to talk a little bit about the ifs here in a second. But yeah, I'm super excited about this. All middle school students, probably something like a Velocity, Stars and Strikes. All high school students, we're going to do Carowinds again. Obviously, all of this contingent on those places being open and available to us to show up at. So that's what's going to happen in July. And then the things that we do know for the fall, we have 2 dates on the calendar that are not going to change. The first one is Promotion Sunday. This is the Sunday that your previously 5th grader will be a 6th grader, officially, per arStudents. It'll be when your 8th graders officially become 9th graders for us. So that'll be the first Sunday that your students, if they're 6th graders, will come to arStudents. So circle that date. That's 8 days before school starts. School starts on the 17th. Yep. So maybe. But yeah, August 9th, that's our Promotion Sunday. And then the other date that we know is Back to School Bash. When we started doing Back to School Bash, it's our big landing point on inviting your friends. We like to start the fall with a series on how important it is that arStudents doesn't just stay with us, that it gets bigger than us, that God's work in the world is much bigger than just our small group of students. And so Back to School Bash is the opportunity our students have to invite all of their friends to something super fun, crazy. Last year we did it at the farm on Summers Drive. It was a blast. So that's the weekend after Labor Day weekend. So those are the dates we do know. And now for the things we don't know. Things we don't know. First of all, we don't know dates for any of these summer events. Tomorrow is the beginning of May. In an ideal world, I would have all these events planned. That's just not reality right now. We just don't know when things are going to loosen up enough for us to start hosting events, start planning these kinds of things. So we just don't have dates yet. It's going to be in July. I've given you a month. I've narrowed it down to a month. And if things change, I will certainly let you know immediately. But those are things to be looking out for in the future. Next, we don't know when we're going to go back to weekly gatherings. It's the same story as the rest of our church. We just don't know what that date is going to be. Is it going to be in a month? Is it going to be in 2 months? I don't know. No one knows. Flip a coin at this point. No, we truly just don't know when that's going to happen. It's unfortunate. I wish we did, but we don't. So eventually we will return to weekly gatherings, and the goal would be for that to happen before the weekend of 4th of July. And if it's not before then a lot of this is going to change again anyway. So keep an eye out for your emails on that. And then last is Big Stuff. So the summer camp we go to every year, it's called Big Stuff. It's in Panama City Beach. It's awesome. We got an email this week, just 2 days ago, that said, all June camp dates, which would include us, have been canceled. So at this point, we're working with the Big Stuff staff, as I'm sure every other group across the entire Southeast that had a June camp date, on seeing if we can squeeze into one of the July camp dates. Again, I don't have more information on that just yet. I hopefully will in the next couple weeks. It would be awesome to get down to Big Stuff this summer, but the reality for them is that they don't know what the rest of the summer is going to look like. They've canceled June dates. They might still cancel July dates. We don't actually have all the details there. So just keep an eye out for those emails, those communications that I'm going to hopefully stay on top of with y'all. So those things we don't know. And I wish I had a little bit more concreteness behind at least these things and a couple other things, but we just don't know. The high school has been difficult to work with just because they've got so much going on. It's no one's fault. I mean, they've got seniors to graduate. They're trying to figure everything out just as much as we are. So as soon as any of these things get shored up, as soon as I have confirmation, I will make sure you get those communications. Where am I? The last thing I want to talk to you is about, or the last thing I want to talk about is parents. One of the things that I think we have an opportunity to do this upcoming fall is to bring more of our parents into being involved with arStudents. And so we're going to need your help. Moving to the high school is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be comfortable right away. I'm going to need some help. Your student small group leaders are going to need some help. And so I will certainly get more details to you as we get closer to that about exactly how you can help. But some of the things that you can expect to see is providing meals for our students. We believe a free meal is really important about making sure your students come to arStudents. Also, they get fed, so that's good for you too. We'll need help providing those meals. We'll need help serving those meals as well. Check-in and check-out is going to be something that we're going to have to look into if we use, depending on how much of the high school that we use. And then just on top of that, anytime you can carpool, anytime you can grab a couple of your students, friends, and bring them all to arStudents, anytime you can open up your house for a sleepover, those are the things that really bring community together with your students. I'll have plenty of more information for you on that once we get closer, but just something to keep in mind. And then the last thing that I'm excited about is this upcoming week, we've got some parents that have volunteered to host Zoom calls just for parents to talk about what it's like to parent a teenager, what it's like to walk into this new season, whether you're a rising 6th grade parent, rising 9th grade parent, or anywhere in between. We think that one person, one parent, one set of parents is good. If we can get all of our parents together and get their heads together, then I think a lot more goodness can come from that. And so we've got these Zoom calls. This is when they're going to be. Rawlings Middle School will be on Tuesday. All the Pinewood parents also on Tuesday. All the high schools on Wednesday. And then Greg and DuBose on Thursday. You will get Zoom call credentials on Monday morning for all of these. So be on the lookout for that. And you don't have to RSVP. You just jump on when at the time specified. I'll make sure you get all of this information in an email as well, so you don't have to memorize it right now. But if you want to throw it in your phone calendar, because there's nothing else on your phone calendar right now, this is a really cool thing. And some of the parents that have jumped in, I think, are some of our like truly all-star parents, especially because a lot of these parents have students across the ages too. So it's not, whatever questions you might have about parenting, about specific schools, policies, if you've got a Rawlings student moving up into 6th grade, what's it like versus a student at Greg? There's big differences, and I'm sure a lot of those questions can be asked and answered there, because I don't know everything about these schools, I'll be really honest, and some of them are kind of confusing to me. So, that's the cool thing we've got going on next week. Make sure you get those dates circled, and I think that's it. That's an absurd amount of information really quickly. It's 25 minutes of me just rambling. So I would love to hear some of your questions. I think they've already got a few compiled. And if you have more questions, make sure you send them in the chat. And I'll answer as many as I can in the next 15, 20 minutes. So What do we got?
Are there any changes to the adult small group leaders planned? Who will be working with the kids? Charlotte's had a great year.
Okay, we have some changes for our small group leader roster coming. None of them are set in stone. Like I said, I was hoping we would be farther in the game on this, but we're just not with the coronavirus stuff. There will be changes. I can tell you that the middle school boys leaders will be returning and adding more. Most of the changes will be additions, I would say. At this point, I don't know of any leaders that are telling me that they're trying to get out of arStudents, because let's be honest, arStudents is pretty awesome. But we're definitely going to add some more leaders this upcoming fall. There's going to be a lot of sixth graders, so we have to add some more leaders to make that happen. Hope that answers the question. I hope it's not too vague. Yes. Oh, okay.
What are your ideal ratios for middle school small groups per leader, and what does small group mean?
Oh, okay. Great question. The question was, what's the ideal ratio for, I'm assuming, student to leader, and then what does small group even mean? We'll start with the second half. Small group is where our students get to spend some time together talking about whatever content, whatever message they've heard in their large group, the program side of the arStudents time. And so there's usually a couple icebreaker questions, silly ones, like if you're going to be a superhero, which one would you be? And then questions tailored specifically to what we're talking about that week in arStudents, whether it's a specific Bible verse, a topic, whatever it might be. And so small group is the opportunity for your students to debrief it, unpack it a little bit with leaders in the room as well. The ideal ratio, that's tough, because it partly depends on the leader, because some leaders like larger groups, some leaders thrive in smaller groups. I would say the ideal ratio is somewhere in the 8 to 12 students per small group with 2 leaders. So dividing that in half, it's 4 to 6 students per leader in that range. But we always do 2 leaders per small group, because safe sanctuaries, and because small group leaders work really well as a team. And so that's kind of the ratio, the magic number. Our middle school girls group sometimes is way bigger than that. Sometimes it's smaller than that, depending on the week, depending on the scenario that we're in. So hope that answers it. Next.
Can current 5th graders participate in Friday night arStudents online now/over the summer, or do you prefer they wait to kick off on the 9th?
Oh, great question. So the question was, do current 5th graders, are they allowed, is that what it said, allowed to participate in Friday nights? Absolutely. If your 5th grader wants to jump in with what arStudents is doing online right now, they are certainly welcome. If we were meeting in person, I would say that you and your 5th grade student-to-be would be welcome to come visit anytime. What we don't want is that we don't want those 5th graders coming into our small groups just yet. Our established small groups, they're just not in the mindset of adding new 5th/6th graders right away. So that's probably where it would be tricky. We could definitely talk about it, though. If you've got a 5th grader that really wants to jump in, then we can certainly talk about that. But in terms of our Friday night arStudents experience, yes, please have them watch it. They can watch on demand afterwards, too. It's all good stuff. It might be a hair above their pay grade, but what we're doing with online is certainly middle school appropriate. So they're only 1 year away, not even a year away from middle school. So I would say that's a-okay. Yep.
What ages go to big stuff if it happens?
What ages go to big stuff? That is completed 6th through 12th grade. So that's, you have to already be your student. Sorry to our current 5th graders. It's big stuff's rules, not mine. And it also kind of goes with promotion Sunday being in the fall. I know other churches do promotion in May. Well, we do it in the fall. I don't know. It's just the way we do it. That decision was before my time, and I like it. It's great. Moving up right before school starts makes sense to me. So yeah, if you have a finished 6th through 12th grader or current 6th through 12th grader finished by the time camp rolls around, they are welcome to go. that registration link is available and live right now. That said, we just don't know what's going to happen. So do with that what you will. Do we have another question?
Pending current circumstances, will there be retreats, gatherings during the fall and or spring?
So retreats, so you would think next spring? Is that what he's saying?
Fall and spring.
Fall and spring. Okay.
Clark, we don't know.
Clark, if you asked that question, how you doing, Clark? The question was, with the current situation, what's the likelihood of us doing retreats in the fall and the spring? And what are the plans for that? Again, like I said, I would like to be in a better place in terms of having dates and plans made. We just, people aren't taking reservations for stuff. We just don't know. That said, we will definitely continue to serve our community as well as we can. So we try and do at least one service opportunity for AR students per semester, and then also hopefully going to do a retreat sometime during the school year. That is the plan. Hopefully that's going to happen. We don't really know at this point. That would certainly be the plan. We just don't know. I hope it's kind of where we're at on that. Hope that is helpful.
Where do we go for more information? What about social media?
Social media, where do you go for more information and or social media? We use Instagram primarily as our social media outlet. The tricky part about AR students' social media is that we have y'all, parents, that are looking for information, but also our students engaging with it at the same time. It's kind of both in the same place. So that's why we use Instagram, because more students are on Instagram than Facebook. And so you can go to @arStudents on Instagram and follow us right there. That's where all of our social media stuff, and then it also goes to our Facebook page too, which is, if you just search AR Students, I'm sure that's, I don't know what the exact URL is, but it's AR Students as well on Facebook. And as far as more information, you can reach out to me directly. My email address is lee@asheridgechurch.org. If you have a specific question, you can check the website, that sort of thing. But yeah, Instagram is our big social media, AR Students. All one word.
Are small group leaders background checked?
Are small group leaders background checked? Yes. All of our small group leaders across kids, littles, and students at Asher Ridge Church are background checked, and that will always be the policy. Background checks are good. They're collecting questions back there. It's fine.
If someone wanted to be a small group leader, what's required?
If someone wanted to be a small group leader, what's required? I love that question. Love it. We don't have like a rap sheet for requirements. I would say that you would need to be available to do AR students on a weekly basis. You would need to have the energy to handle middle school and high school students. Whether you end up in middle school or high school, we can definitely talk about that. The high schoolers tend to be a little bit less crazy, but not always. That's not a promise. That's just typical. And you would just get in touch with me. Again, my email address is lee, L-E-E, @asheridgechurch.org. And we can begin that process. I mean, you have to pass your background check, have the availability to be a small group leader on a weekly basis at AR Students on Sunday afternoons, and just have the energy to do it. As far as whether or not you're qualified, I think a lot of our small group leaders go into being a small group leader thinking they have it all together, and then they get to AR Students the very first time, and they're like, whoa, this is insane. Sixth graders are crazy. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, yeah, we can totally do this. So there's not like a experience requirement or like a been a Christian this long requirement. We just have a conversation about where your heart is and what you want to do as possibly being a small group leader. I will say we try to avoid parents being their student's small group leader. So that means if you're Jen Williams and you have a son whose name is Jacob Williams, who's about to be a sixth grader, it works out fine that Jen could be a girl's small group leader because she's not going to be Jacob's small group leader. We always do matching gender on small group leaders. So Jen could be a girl's small group leader at the same time that Jacob is physically there with his small group, But I wouldn't want Clark, Jen's husband, and Jacob's father to be Jacob's small group leader. So we actually have a couple of those where it's a daughter and her dad, or a son and her mom situations with small group leaders. That's happened before. So, yes.
Do you have to know the Bible well to be a small group leader or pray out loud?
Do you have to know the Bible well or pray out loud to be a small group leader? The answer to the first part of that question, do you have to know the Bible well? Absolutely not. We're going to give you the tools you need to be successful as a small group leader. Some small group leaders do know the Bible really well. We got a couple of preachers' kids that are small group leaders. On the other hand, you don't have to know the Bible well at all. We keep arStudents' messages and teaching pretty simple on purpose so that you can talk about it on the back end. But in terms of knowing the Bible well, it's definitely not a requirement. Praying out loud, that's probably going to happen. If you're a small group leader, I wouldn't say it's a requirement that you have to pray out loud. It's not like set in stone anywhere. There's no like contract you sign that says, I will pray out loud. That said, it's probably going to happen. You're probably going to want to pray with a student. You're probably going to want to pray for your small group as you finish your time together. But if your one hang up about being a small group leader is not wanting to pray out loud, then still talk to me, because we can work on that, because that's something that you learn. That's not something that just comes naturally. So learning to pray out loud for your students is super rewarding and really cool. They listen really closely when people pray for them, I've noticed. Like, it doesn't matter, 6th grade through 12th grade, if you're taking the time to pray for a student, especially one-on-one, one-on-two sort of situations, they're going to listen and they're going to get something out of it. So that's a pretty cool thing. Yes.
My son was not signed up for big stuff. If the dates move, he wants to go. Is there a way for him to sign up, and will you let us know if the new dates happen?
Yes. Okay, so the question is, my son has not registered for big stuff, but wants to now that the dates are changing. And can you do that? Yes, you can do that. I'm going to be limited on spots depending on how many spots Big Stuff has available at one of their other camp dates that we can sneak into, because Big Stuff for the whole summer is sold out. And so they're relying on other people's cancellations and filling those at their location in Panama City Beach. So it's going to be kind of dependent on timing and how many they can accommodate and fit us in, because they're obviously not going to split our group up between multiple camp dates. So the answer to the question is yes, I will get you those dates as soon as I have them. Same day, I promise, and I'll make sure you have access to that link right away. It's the same link that we use for all of our registration stuff. If you've served on the food truck before, you can get to it from there too. It's also in our Instagram bio. I'm pretty sure it's still there, in the link tree. So if you go to the Instagram bio, click on the link tree link, and there's a button for Big Stuff registration. But the dates won't. It says June dates right now. That has already been canceled, nixed. It's not going to be in June. It will be in July, if we go.
What are the best ways to communicate with you, and how will you communicate with us?
What are the best ways to communicate with me? I try and make myself as available as possible. Email, text message, call me, send a carrier pigeon, signal fires, skywriting, whatever it is. You can get in touch with me anyway. Instagram DMs works too. You can get in touch with me however you want, whatever works best for you. I try and make my contact information as available as possible, both to you and to your students. How will we communicate with you? Right now, we do emails on a weekly basis and then 1 or 2 text message blasts per week. So if you're a current middle school or high school parent and you're not getting those text messages or emails, let us know. Shoot me an email right now or an Instagram DM or whatever, and we'll get you added to the list. If you're a 5th grade parent, then you haven't started getting those yet, but you will. You'll get text messages and emails just like everyone else, starting probably sometime in the summer. Probably sometime in June was when you'll hear from me directly in a text message blast. And we have a dedicated phone number for those text message blasts that's separate from mine, but you can still reply to that one and it works. So we try and do texts and emails just because it's easier when stuff is in writing than you hearing it. because everyone forgets when people talk to you about stuff. I forget all the time. So, yeah, text messages, emails. That might be it. It is almost 7:45. Again, Jen, can you put the Zoom call information back up? Again, these Zoom calls are going to happen this upcoming week. Make sure you jump on one of those for more questions. If you have questions for me, I will be there to help host and mediate the conversation, moderate the conversation.
Alston will also be with Greg and DeBose.
Yeah, Alston will be with Greg and DeBose. Sorry, it didn't fit. I'm sorry. Alston Middle will be with Greg and DeBose on Thursday. And so if you have more questions, and again, more of those like general parenting questions, like you can ask our high school parents, what's it like when your kid first gets car keys? Or you can ask a middle school parent, when do you get a cell phone? Like all of these different questions that are a little bit more parenting specific, we'll definitely be sure to cover those then. And like I said, I'm available. You can always ask me, and I'll give you my zero experience parenting advice. I don't know. I'll try.
How do they get the info for the Zoom call?
The Zoom call, like credentials will go out in an email blast on Monday morning. How do you get an email? That email?
What list do you have to be on?
Yeah, so if you are currently a 5th through 12th grade parent in our database, you will automatically get an email with the Zoom calls. If you're not involved with Asher Ridge Church, if your kids have never come to Asher Ridge Church and we don't have your email information, be sure to get in touch with me and I'll make sure you get added to it. I plan on sending that out to everyone, every email address that we have in that age range. But if we don't have your email address, make sure you let us know, either in the chat right now, or you can email me at lee@asherridgechurch.org, or you can DM us on Instagram. That's an easy one too. It's at arStudents on Instagram.
Will we be able to share the Zoom link with friends?
Oh, yes, I didn't even say that. You will absolutely be allowed to share the Zoom link with parent friends. If you're, like I've already talked to one of the Pinewood parents that has said, oh, that's really great. I'll make sure all of my other Pinewood friends know about it. You can definitely share that link with anyone. And we can pack these Zoom calls out, have a good time together, ask some questions, grow a little bit, and probably solve all the world's problems at the same time. No guarantees, though. Anything else y'all two can think of back there? No? Cool. Well, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're tuning in after the fact, all of those other things about Zoom calls and that kind of information, and you want some more information, go ahead and get in touch with me on the arStudents Instagram page through an email, lee@asherridgechurch.org. And we can work things out if you're watching a little bit after the fact from these dates especially. And thank you all so much for giving me the time to talk and listening and being such a great audience, honestly. Like no one's phone went off, no one coughed. It was great. It was great hanging out with you guys. Y'all are awesome. We love you, and we will see you very, very